Hi, Rangers faithful, and what a time it is to be talking about this club because things behind the scenes are starting to heat up, and when the movement starts to feel real, you can almost sense that something is just around the corner. Right now, all signs are pointing toward another twist in the story of Kieran Dowell, and it feels like we are once again edging closer to a situation where his time in Glasgow takes another detour rather than a fresh beginning at Ibrox. At 28 years of age, he finds himself in a familiar place on the fringe of the squad, watching from the outside while the season pushes forward at full speed. Last year's spell away did have its moments, and while there were flashes of quality during that period south of the border, it never quite turned into the statement season that would have forced the manager's hand back home. The problem for Dowell is that the door never really opened for him on his return. The early weeks of this campaign told their own story, particularly that uncomfortable afternoon against Victoria Plzen where his struggles were laid bare and the confidence never really recovered. You can feel how the mood shifted after that match, not just in the stands, but around the whole conversation of what his future might look like. There has been a growing sense for months that this relationship was slowly moving toward an end point, with people close to the club quietly accepting that a clean break might come sooner rather than later. With January approaching, that feeling has started to sharpen into something much more real and much more immediate. What complicated the picture for a brief moment was the change of leadership on the touchline. When a new manager walks through the door, hope tends to follow for players who have been living on the margins. There was a feeling that perhaps the slate would be wiped clean, that those who had been drifting might be offered another chance to prove their worth. But in Dowell's case, that optimism has never translated into minutes on the pitch. Not a single appearance under the current regime, not even a short cameo, and the last real 90 minutes of football he can look back on still traces its way back to the late summer. That silence in terms of selection speaks louder than any rumor ever could. Now the talk has shifted firmly towards another temporary exit, with interest building from England and a club that sees opportunity rather than risk. For Dowell, the idea of returning south is not just about geography, it is about rescuing a career that feels like it has stalled at a crucial moment. Regular football, rhythm, relevance, all of it matters when you reach this stage of your career, and you can feel time starting to move quicker than you would like. From his side, alone makes sense because it gives him the chance to prove himself again without slamming the door shut on what he once hoped to build in Glasgow. But from the perspective of Rangers, the logic is far less straightforward. Another short-term move feels like pressing pause rather than playing forward. If there is no intention to use him, if the technical team have already decided that his role in the future is close to non-existent, then holding on to him through repeated loans starts to feel like a strange form of hesitation. You are neither fully committed to rebuilding the relationship nor fully committed to moving on. You sit somewhere in between, and in modern football, that grey area can quietly become expensive, both in terms of finances and in terms of squad clarity. The club have been working behind the scenes to trim down the squad, to create space, to make room for players who fit the vision of what Rangers want to be in the coming seasons. Every decision matters in that process. Every wage, every slot, every opportunity cost adds up. Sending Dowell away again without any real long-term return does not necessarily solve the bigger problem. It moves it temporarily off the surface, but it does not remove it. That is why this potential move feels like a crossroads, not just for the player, but for the way Rangers handle these situations going forward, as January creeps closer, the need for clarity becomes impossible to ignore. Do you prioritize convenience, or do you choose to be decisive? Do you keep extending chapters that feel like they have already ended? Or do you finally write the full stop and allow both sides to move forward with no strings attached? These are the kinds of quiet decisions that define clubs over time. And right now, the sense around Ibrox is that this is not just about one midfielder, but about the direction of the project itself and the standard of ruthlessness that is required if Rangers want to keep pushing forward at full speed without carrying unnecessary weight. From seasons gone by, that 3-goal win over Kilmarnock should have felt like one of those afternoons where everything just settles, where you walk away talking only about control, confidence, and a team starting to find a proper rhythm. But for Rangers, it has turned into something a bit more complicated. And that says a lot about the mood around the club right now. Even with a clean sheet and a dominant scoreline, the conversation among the support did not stay on the goals, the movement, or the flow of the football. Instead, it drifted almost immediately towards the nervous energy that seems to follow the back line whenever the ball is turned over and pressure begins to rise. There is no point pretending this came out of nowhere. The tension has been building for weeks, and it centers around the same area of the pitch. The center of defense has looked fragile in moments, not always chaotic, but uncertain. And that uncertainty is what fans feel in their stomach before anything has even gone wrong. Technically, there is quality there. On the ball, Rangers still look composed, capable of building from the back and keeping control through possession. Against Kilmarnock, the centre-back in question actually saw more of the ball than anyone else on the pitch. That tells you everything about how involved he was in the game, but it also tells you why the frustration exists. Comfort in possession is only half of the job. The concern that keeps rising is not about what happens when Rangers have the ball, but what happens in the moments just before they lose it. Positioning that feels half a second late. Tracking runs that are spotted too slowly. That tiny delay in decision-making that turns a harmless situation into a scramble. Rangers were fortunate that Kilmarnock did not make them pay for it, but the feeling among the support is that a better side would have punished those lapses without mercy. When you are chasing titles and trying to reassert yourself at the top of the game, those margins stop being small and start becoming decisive. Context matters here because the manager has not exactly been spoiled for choice. With defensive options sidelined, he has been forced into sticking with what is available, even when confidence is clearly being tested. There is a difference between trusting a player and having no real alternative, and right now that line feels blurred. You can sense that the decision is not just tactical, it is structural. It is about what the squad can and cannot offer at this point in the season, and that reality shapes every team sheet more than any tactical whiteboard ever could. Social reaction has been fierce, and that in itself is part of the story. When a fan base feels stable, criticism exists, but it stays measured. When nerves creep in, the tone changes. It becomes sharper, louder, more impatient. That is exactly what has been happening over the last few matches. Supporters have not been shy about holding individuals to account, and while some of the language goes too far, the emotion behind it is real. It is not born out of spite, but out of fear. Fear that the foundations are not as solid as they should be. What makes the situation even more interesting is that there is a potential solution already within the building. A young defender who showed promise last season, who played with a natural aggression and an understanding of the league remains unused. Not just unused, but completely absent from the rotation. No late cameos, no chances when games are already won. Nothing. That silence has become louder with every match. Fans are not just questioning performances anymore, they are questioning decisions, and that is a much more delicate place for a manager to be. The young option is not the finished article. Nobody close to the club believes that. There are rough edges, moments of naivety, and room to grow. But there is also familiarity with the rhythm of the Scottish game, with the physical demands, with the constant stress of playing for a club that is expected to dominate rather than survive. Sometimes that counts for more than elegance on the ball. Sometimes that counts for more than reputation. With key defenders still weeks away from returning, this situation is not going to fix itself overnight. Every performance now adds weight to the debate. Every mistake feels larger. Every good moment feels temporary. The manager's reluctance to turn to alternatives is becoming part of the narrative, not just a detail within it. If the current path continues, the scrutiny will only grow louder and the sense of unease will deepen. For Rangers, this is not just about one player, one performance, or one match against Kilmarnock. It is about the identity they are trying to build under pressure, whether they want to be a side that dominates through control alone, or one that also carries that old-fashioned edge of resilience, awareness, and defensive instinct that has historically defined strong teams in Scotland. Right now, that question is hovering in the air around Ibrox unanswered and growing heavier with every passing game as the season moves into a period where mistakes are no longer lessons, they are consequences. What makes this moment even more delicate is the way the crowd inside Ibrox has started to change its mood. You can feel it in the small things, in the groans when a simple pass goes astray, in the sharp intake of breath when an opponent breaks through the first line of pressure. This is not a fan base that has turned hostile without reason. It is a support that has lived through too many false dawns and too many defensive collapses to simply sit quietly and hope for the best. Every misplaced step at the back feels heavier because history has taught them how quickly things can unravel. Training ground whispers are part of football life, football. And while no one outside truly knows what happens behind closed doors, the sense is that these conversations are happening daily. The defensive unit does not just work on shape and movement, but on trust. That is the part that takes the longest to build and the easiest to lose. When centre-backs stop trusting that the partner next to them will be in the right position, doubt creeps into every action. You hesitate for half a second, and at this level, half a second is enough to open a door that should never have been left unlocked. The transfer window hanging on the horizon has started to feel less like an opportunity and more like a countdown. Every match now is viewed through the lens of what must change and how quickly it can be done. The recruitment team will already be mapping profiles, weighing risks, and trying to balance finances against ambition. Supporters are doing the same in their own way, debating what positions are truly secure and which ones feel like ticking time bombs, waiting for the wrong opponent to expose them. And within all of this, the dressing room dynamic becomes crucial. Players feel this tension even when they say they do not. They see the reactions, they hear the noise, and it shapes how they play. Confidence can spread just as quickly as doubt. For Rangers, the challenge now is to make sure that the dressing room becomes a shelter from the storm rather than a place where the storm grows louder, because the coming weeks will demand mental strength as much as technical quality, and only those who can balance both will be able to push this team forward through the pressure that is starting to define their season. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to get all the exclusive news about Rangers FC. Don't overlook any details about your beloved team. It's crucial for Rangers FC fans. The corridors of Ibrox have been buzzing with whispers ever since word broke that Ben Johnson is set to bolster the Rangers' defensive ranks. Sources close to the club suggest that the England international, known for his pace and tenacity down the flank, could be the missing piece in a defence that's been under scrutiny in recent months. Though no official confirmation has landed, the mere hint of Johnson's arrival has set tongues wagging among supporters and pundits alike. Those in the know claim that Johnson's reputation for marauding runs and discipline marking makes him a dual threat, capable of shutting down opposition wingers while also providing an attacking outlet on the right. Rangers fans are reportedly buzzing at the prospect, imagining the kind of intensity he could bring to matches against the old firm rivals. Some insiders even hint that his presence might push existing squad members to up their game, sparking healthy competition within the backline. Whispers also suggest that Johnson's experience in top-flight English football could translate well to the demands of the Scottish Premiership. While younger talents have shown promise at Ibrox, the addition of a player with proven credentials may offer a stabilizing influence during crunch moments. Rumors even swirl about the potential tactical shifts the coaching staff might employ, with Johnson's overlapping runs giving a new dimension to the Rangers' style of play. Naturally, social media is alight with speculation. Fans debate endlessly over whether he'll slot straight into the starting 11 or gradually ease into the side. Some argue that his arrival might be precisely what the squad needs to shore up a leaky defense, while others caution that integration could take time. Either way, the buzz is undeniable, and it seems that wherever Ben Johnson goes, he carries a certain sense of expectation, a player whose presence alone can alter dynamics both on and off the pitch. As the rumour mill turns, one thing is clear: Rangers supporters are eagerly anticipating how this potential signing could reshape the team's defensive fortitude. Whether Johnson arrives to immediate acclaim or faces the usual early teething problems, the chatter at Ibrox has already added a fresh layer of intrigue to the season, and the streets of Glasgow are alive with talk of what might be next for the Light Blues. Greetings, fans. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it's greatly appreciated by Rangers FC. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned